Good morning, everyone, and thank you for all being here. We call to order our Tobacco Settlement Agreement Fund Oversight Committee, and I would like to ask Representative King if she would lead us in a prayer and lead us in the pledge. Yes.
Just a clarification there. Mr. Chair and fellow committee members, I've just been at a loss over the last week of what to even pray for and about, and, with everything that's going on in the world. So I've been praying back to God these following two verses. They are straight out of Romans 8, and I think you'll recognize them. In the same way, the Spirit helps us in our weakness when we do not know what we ought to pray for, but the Spirit Himself intercedes for us through wordless groans. And He who searches our hearts knows the mind of the Spirit, because the Spirit intercedes for God's people in accordance with the will of God. Please join me. Dear God, this is one of those times I'm just at a loss for words. Don't know what to pray for. So I'm just praying once again this morning, your word back to you, and we will trust you to intercede on our behalf. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you so much, Representative King. Now would like to ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Senator Rocky Adams, Senator Boswell, Senator Deneen,
Here.
Senator Harper Angel, Senator Webb, Representative Brown, Representative King,
Present.
Representative Pratt,
Here.
Representative Reed,
Here.
Representative Works,
Here.
Co-Chair Mays Bledsoe, and Co-Chair Dusk.
Present.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to approval of the minutes for our September the 14th meeting. Can I get a motion? And a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Any opposed? Minutes pass. Now we'll move on to our reports, and we'll ask my good friend Brian Lacefield and Bill McCloskey to please come to the desk. And welcome both of you for being here. Brian, looks like you've got new specs on.
I do, Chairman. Thank you. And it's good to see Hillary back after her surgery. She and I were first, I guess, Brian Lacefield, Executive Director of the Office of Ag Policy. Got that now for the record. But Hillary and I were emailing yesterday back and forth, coordinating some things for your December board meeting. And she said, "Well, I see you tomorrow." I said, "Well, the question will be, will I see you?" I had 2 eye surgeries last week, so we're in the process. But you all have watched me here fiddling with glasses quite a bit. Hopefully, going forward, things are going to be a lot better on what we're doing. Great to be with you today. As I always say, this is one of my favorite things, if not the favorite thing I get to do with my job, to get to talk to you all as the ones that are directing these funds, and then tasked with the oversight of them, with recapping of what we do. And this won't be as long as last month. I think we had 2 months to go over last time, so we just went back through my calendar, looking at what all we'd covered in the last 30 days or so since we had been here. And as always, we cram a lot into a short amount of time. But we had our the following day after we met last month, we had our Ag Development Board meeting, and then the following week had the first ever Raising Hope event that was here at the Capitol, and many thanks to you and your colleagues for the attendance and support of that. I have not heard a final head count, but just from my eyeball around. Now again, this was pre-surgery, so it may be skewed one way or the other, but I think well over 300 or more folks were here to do this. And I'm just very thankful that's a topic with the mental health that we're bringing awareness to, and glad to see the tobacco dollars allocated there. Saw several over in Louisville at the Chamber annual dinner. That was another well-attended event. Then we had joint meetings with our colleagues at the federal level with the USDA. We had back-to-back meetings at Rural Development, and then went over and saw my old friends at the Farm Service Agency for a good chance of interaction between the two teams of my staff and leadership with the Farm Service Agency. Again, saw several over at the Fayette County Farm Bureau Legislative Appreciation Dinner, a great event that Fayette County's Farm Bureau puts on every year. And then we continue to work now in the fall, pushing towards the end of the year. We on our county level programs as well as any state level programs, we collect input throughout the year. A lot of folks, participants, administrators, facilitators, all have different ideas of what we can do to improve these the projects and programs across the state, and we welcome these because these are the boots on the ground. These are the ones actually receiving these projects or the ones doing the work to get the dollars out the door. But can't change everything every meeting. So what we do is we compile those throughout the year. Then we review those through the program evaluation committee, which is a subcommittee of our overall ag development board, and then these are passed back to the individual board members, and these will go out in a survey, so they can do this in over time, take as much time as they need, and do it independently without any I guess any dominant voice on the board. Everybody can think through the programs and think about the different change. We include all the comments that come in, so whenever I get oral comments, I always ask they put this in an email so I can share it in their words to our board members, and they can make the decision. So that's a big part of what we'll be doing in the next two board meetings, as we're trying to constantly improve and enhance the delivery of these programs. I shared with you all back this summer about a trip I took with the Woodford and Jessamine County FFA group to Ireland, and had a chance to tour 8 different farms in Ireland. Well, while I was visiting one of the farms, I was talking with the owner, and he mentioned he was coming on holiday to the United States. And Chairman Dawson, he said, "I'm coming to Nashville." He said, "That's really close to where you're at in Kentucky." I said, "Well, not really. It's really close to where I'm from in Kentucky, not where I'm at now." And I told him if he would like to visit, I would set up some farm tours. And he came last week, and we were able to take him to 5 different farms in Christian Trigg and Caldwell County, and showcase a lot of different things. He had never seen tobacco before, let alone dark fired tobacco. So you can imagine getting to go into a barn and firing that, and got him to try some Newsome's country ham and preacher ham while he was in town. They had a great tour, and it was a good reminder as watching the farmers I was introducing him to, talk with them, and being an ocean apart, how we're all still dealing with the same challenges in production agriculture. And so he did several videos and has since called me and wants to swap videos back and forth of interviews of Ireland farmers talking to American farmers, and American farmers talking to Ireland farmers, to talk about different challenges of what they're doing. And just again continues to realize when you start dealing in agriculture, the world shrinks really quickly, and it becomes just one global market. Talking about the cured country ham there at Newsome's Ham, we also celebrated earlier this week the ribbon cutting and along over in Louisville and Butchertown, and we had Mayor Greenberg join us as well for the ribbon cutting and grand opening of Cured Meats, which is owned by Alvio and Elise Lampinet, that are Cuban immigrants who have come to the States and have gone through ag development funds and were awarded. We probably talked to you about that a year and a half ago as they were initially approved, but we furnished the equipment or cost share dollars going towards the equipment in the form of a forgivable loan, and they earned their forgiveness based on a per hog per head every time they process a Kentucky hog, they earn debt forgiveness towards their equipment, and it's a wonderful story with this young couple truly coming over to our country and getting their shot at the American dream. I was just truly inspired with it, and Representative King and Roark, I was thinking about your field trip with Senator Webb to the local, and I think we just maybe need to expand our radius a little bit further and ease over sometime, let them get up and going. But highly recommend it, what they were doing. Yesterday, it had a stakeholder call. The Tennessee and Kentucky Pork Associations are doing a strategic plan, so I was proud to be able to give my perspectives on what that association is doing in Kentucky and help improve their mission. So that was what's been going on with me. Meanwhile, at the Office of Ag Policy, business as usual always continues. County councils are meeting somewhere in Kentucky any week. If you ever want to come to one, let Bill or I know. There is one happening somewhere in Kentucky we can go to. We are continuing with all of our committee meetings, again, as we're trying to move towards the end of the year and setting the program guidelines for next year. But also, we're in the season of the Kentucky Farm Bureau advisory committees. I believe President Haney said they have over 20 different advisory committees. I serve as an ex officio on a number of these, and either I or my staff have been able to attend and engage in the discussion as what they're working for as they move toward their annual meeting and their resolutions. Bill and two of the members of our Kentucky Ag Finance team attended the National Council of State Agriculture Finance Programs in Raleigh, North Carolina. And Bill, following on his 2-year term as president of the Louisville Ag Club, is ready to take his level of leadership to the national level and has been named vice president-elect of this national organization. So congratulations to Bill on that, and that recognition of a servant leader, or he had an ill-timed trip to go out to get a cup of coffee. So one or the other happened at that meeting, but I'm excited as I enjoyed showcasing Kentucky to our friends from Ireland. We'll be able to showcase Kentucky in a year or two. We'll be host now with Bill in his leadership position. And but in all seriousness,
More information later.
More information to come later. So that's what's been going on in the Office of Ag Policy. Moving on through your packet we provided. We've been talking about this for a couple of months, but I want to continue to invite you all. I guess this will be the last time I see you until, well, no, we'll probably be a day or two before on November. We'll be seeing each other again. But we've got our joint board meeting. We'll be both of our boards meeting together in Western Kentucky on Thursday. We've got a day of tours planned in Trigg and Christian County that are going to be highlighting all value-added markets, and then we'll have a reception that evening at Casey Jones Distillery, which was a project that we funded last year through the Ag Finance Corporation, and then we'll have a joint board meeting on the Friday. And in the agenda on the for the Ag Development Board, there is time for some long-range strategic planning, and we would welcome and encourage members of this committee to be down there and offer any insight and guidance to this committee, as we're at this point we'll be through an election and be ready for an administration change on that. Next page be the different meeting schedule for the next year on our Ag Finance Corporation. And Ag Finance, as we've shared every time we've been here for the last year, has been very popular with the rising interest rate environment. Our low interest participation loans have been very appealing to both our lenders and our participating lenders and our applicants. Last month we had 16 loans, 5 in our Ag Infrastructure Program, 10 in our Beginning Farm Loan Program, and 1 of our Large and Food Animal Veterinary Program, for a total of $2.4 million. And I always like to point out how these funds are leveraged, where we will not exceed 50% of a project but we have loan limits of $250,000 max on 4 of the 5 loan programs. So $2.4 million, but it was nearly $11 million of capital investment across Kentucky, utilizing all 3 of the farm credit systems that we have in Kentucky and 4 different community banks. So again, continues to be a very popular program. On page 5 and 6 is the press release that went out following the Ag Finance board meeting. And then the last on my section there is the Ag Development Board meeting schedule for the next year. All right, and I'll stop there and let Bill talk about some of the county level programs.
All right, if you'll turn to page 8, we'll give you an update on programs that are approved at the last Ag Development Board meeting. So you can see under Cape County Agriculture Investment Program, there were several counties. 3 counties have an asterisk, and that denotes that counties that have been allocated state money. We give you an update on this about every meeting, where this is the third year the Ag Development Board has allocated some state money to any county that receives less than $30,000. So for this past year, or for 2023, that was 21 counties. So looking at Leslie County, they were approved for $53,481 to administer the CAPE program by the Conservation District. Their annual, or their allocation this year, was just under $5,000. So by bringing them up to 30, now they're able to offer this program in Leslie County. Floyd County, they get a whopping $374 this year, so we brought them up to $30,000. You can see they were approved for $79,262. So they rolled over some money, Representative Reed, from last year to be able to offer the CAPE program. A lot of counties, to get minimum amount of dollars, will run a CAPE program every other year. And then Boyd County, their allocation was $2,174. Again, they were brought up to $30,000, and then they're administering the program through the Conservation District for a total of $40,000. So that was 21 counties were again allocated $487,416 in state money to those counties. And a couple of things this has accomplished is it increases our outreach to mostly counties in far western Kentucky like Hickman, Fulton, and then Eastern County we've identified here, and gives those producers the ability, Representative Pratt, to take advantage of some cost share programs and to receive CAPE funds. They have to enroll in a educational programming provided by Extension. So that's we talk about the $700 million have been invested as the tangible part of Representative King, but the intangible part is that education component that all producers receiving CAPE money, I think you'll appreciate that, they have to complete an education program. Again, just the intangible part of the investment we have in the Ag Development Fund. And then under the Deceased Farm Animal Removal Program, 2 counties were approved for $12,000, and then Leslie County is going to provide $2,000 in the Ag Incentives Program or Youth Program. And then page 9, we have a county that was no funded, Marshall County Conservation District. They usually administer, or one of those counties administers a CAPE program every other year, and they did administer a CAPE program in 2022, but they made another request for 2023, and the county council will make these decisions on committing the money. They had already committed some money to the Farmers Market Project, which received state funds, and then also supported a meat processor there in Benton, the county seat of Marshall County. And so they said, let's the funds that we have, which was $22,000, let's roll that over till next year and do a CAPE program in close to $50,000. So they both agreed, the Conservation District and the County Council, to skip this year. So that information comes in, and since there was no county commitment, then the board, based on the guidelines, provided a no fund on the project. Over on that application. Then page 11, we've got the Jessamine County FFA Alumni Association, previously approved for $100,000, made another request to add an additional $100,000 in county money to bring the total amount available to the CAPE program to $200,000. Okay, next we'll get into projects. So we're on page 12. So the applicant is the Good Riverside Creamery, LLC. So that's the Good family, has a dairy operation in Casey County, milk about 100 cows, and so they're ready to invest into a value-added processing, specifically bottling milk. So this would be the 4th dairy operation in the state. So they requested $64,000 in county money and $150,000 in state funds. The committee recommended, you can see, or at least the committee recommendation of the board, it was approved for $71,000 multi-county. I'm looking at the board decision here at the bottom, is $71,000 multi-county funds matched by state funds with the option to pursue up to $250,000 as a participation loan. So the project is $1.6 million project. It already secured a $1.5 million loan with Bank of Buffalo. You can see the list of requested funds. So obviously a request for county money and state money as a grant certainly adds to the ability to borrow less money towards this project. The reason you've got a $71,000 number in the board decision, at the time that Greg Good had presented this to the committee, he'd already presented it to 7 counties, and they'd committed money to the project, and he said he wasn't going to be going to any more counties, so that's why they capped it at $71,000, just to give you an idea how successful he was. Of course, his home county was Casey County, so they committed $50,000 to the project, and they knew that any county money committed, the way the board's investment philosophy has been on a project that does have the ability to impact other producers, will match with state money. So Dare County, there was a commitment of $2,000, Boyle County $5,000, Lincoln County $2,000, Pulaski County $5,000, Taylor County $5,000, and then Marion $2,000 for a total of $71,000. And this will leverage $71,000 in state money for $142,000 in county and state money as a grant to support this project. And then they do have an option to pursue, working with the lender, a $250,000 participation loan, and the interest rate, and always has been, is 2.75. We've talked to you about the participation loan. So this project, again, will allow them to do some value-added processing there off the dairy. Milk will be pasteurized, but it won't be homogenized. So that allows the cream to float to the top, and that can be appealing to consumers.
Worth noting there on that 3 of the counties, the applicant only asked for $2,000, but in Boyle, Pulaski, and Taylor, the county councils like the application enough, they raised that. And Bill and I've seen that happen 1 or 2 other times. And so we used to tell applicants, very rarely do we ever see anybody negotiate you up, but we're seeing this, and I think that's a testament to the county councils doing their job of vetting these projects, looking at them for the value. But it's also a testament to the applicant. I've known Greg for 30 years. We were at Western together, and strong character and what he's doing. So I think that was a good item to note. All right, moving over on page 13, we have talked about a few of our large and food animal veterinary incentive grant programs that was just launched in January of 23. The next 2 are related projects, and 2 more under this project. Madeline Oram, Dr. Madeline Oram, veterinarian in Todd County at the Todd County Animal Clinic, was operating as an employee. The two existing partners wanted to sell her an equity stake in the business, and so she applied for this project for the maximum amount of $100,000 in state funding, which was an estimated cost at $133,334 to get the total amount, and that came from both support. And recall the terms of this program, as we've talked about in other ones, it's a 5-to-1 match for county funds. We want those county councils to be involved because there isn't a set criteria for how much of your practice has to be large or food animal. It just has to make sure that you offer this service, and we believe that these county councils are going to be vetting that. They're made up of producers in this county, and these were supported by the 2 counties they applied to, Christian and Todd. And Chairman Dawson, I did not realize Skyline had backed out of their change of ownership, and we're not doing the large animal practice. So this was all that was available in all of Hopkinsville now. We're going to that, and they were leasing the facility there in front of the elevator that Skyline had to service some of the large animal there in Christian County. But the first one here is for Dr. Oram, and this allowed her to buy into practice. This was her dream. I know she wanted to stay and work in large animal, and this gives her a chance to not only be able to practice, but to be an owner of her clinic. The second project is the clinic itself on page 14, where it was able to apply for equipment to expand their cattle working facility and different equipment for large animal and food animal veterinary service. This one again was for the max amount, had the support from Christian and Todd County, and then the applicants putting in the other funds through borrowed money with their line of credit with First Southern Bank. Now, there is a lifetime limit per applicant on these. So Dr. Orem was capped out at where she is, and the Todd County Veterinary Clinic is now kept out for where they are under the current guidelines of the program.
Moving on to page 15, you've got a report for Pulaski County Board of Education. It was approved for $200,000 to construct a 80 by 150 agricultural complex building at Pulaski County High School. They've received funds in the past for a greenhouse, and now they're looking to expand in a structure that would accommodate some livestock production or education. And they've had two ag teachers in the past. They've now added a third ag teacher to help with this program, again, to focus on livestock production and education. Against county money only, $200,000. The Board of Education is providing the match for this project. All right, next on page 16, we've got the Lincoln County Fiscal Court was approved for $7,500 in county money for a farmers market project in the Broughton Community Center area that's in the southeast of Lincoln County. So they currently have a farmers market in the Stanford area, so they wanted to expand and provide an opportunity. I noticed in the application they said the Broughton Community Center is very involved in the community, a lot of different activities, and they will have access to bathrooms with the farmers market. That's something I always ask when we get an application, when they're building a farmers market, have you incorporating our access to bathrooms? Because that's very important for any farmers market. So they will have access to the bathrooms there at the community center.
All right, our last project was Three Stone Farms out of Henry County. They requested $530,000 in multi-county and state funds to aid in building a confinement feeding barn to utilize stillage from distilleries to feed cattle. Throughout the committee process, the committees noted the lack of regional or state impact and limited this to county funds only. And so the award from the board was $30,000 in multi-county funds to aid in the construction of this confinement feeding barn. This was also referred to Kentucky Ag Finance, as this would qualify under the infrastructure program and would be available up to $250,000 in a participating loan. And following that is our press release for $1.1 million in projects across the Commonwealth. And with that, Chairman, we'll be available for questions.
Do we have any questions? Brian, I did want to ask you, I know on the project there for Dr. Orem and there for the Todd County Clinic, is it a misprint on that where it shows it's $100,001?
You'll be limited to 100.
Yeah,
I knew
that
that.
was a misprint. And same with the one before it. So we'll blame that on our proof pre-eye surgery. That work when we use that. So yeah, the program is capped at $100,000 even.
And I know I was having a conversation the other day. You mentioned about Sky with a close friend of mine who's Dr. Pat Doherty, and we were speaking on this issue of large veterinarians working with large animals, and so many of our veterinarians are getting of an age that I know Pat mentioned to me, as he and I are both the same age, and health-wise and just physically, it's hard to handle these large animals. It takes a young person to be able to do this, and I'm so happy that Dr. Orem is going in there at with the facility there at Todd County with the clinic right there as well. So that's very important there for not only for Christian County and for Todd County as well, because so many cross over those two counties. The customers, the cattle growers, or all any of our farmers that are raising different animals.
Well, and an equine presence too. That we've learned that through these discussions. And you're exactly right, Chairman Dawson. I went to speak last fall to the Veterinary Medical Association, and literally about the first 20 minutes, they were all sharing war stories from the injuries and surgeries they've had. It is a very physically demanding occupation, and so glad to see one's continuing to enter in. And the two projects we talked about today were exactly what the board had in mind when they were designing the program. And we've got two more, I think, going to be working their way through. We'll be sharing with you at future meetings, and that will bring us to, I think, 9 projects that we've worked with this year. So this has been a good one to see a need identified, a program developed and implemented, and now seeing success with it.
Well, and a couple of comments to that issue, Representative Dossett, is for 22, going on 23 years, farmers been able to access through the CAPE program cattle handling facility upgrades. And that helps. I doubt that many veterinarians now will go to a farm unless you've got cattle handling facilities. And with this vet program, now they can upgrade or update their large animal handling facilities, and that obviously will improve the safety of the veterinarians and their staff working with large animals.
Well, and I do want to mention, Brian, I know you brought up that you are having the meetings there next in November in Christian County there at Hopkinsville, and I wanted to make sure, and we'll remind everyone, we will not be having a meeting of this committee in November due to that fact right there. But in December, and I apologize to my co-chair that she won't have the committee for November, and no way that I'll give up my chairmanship for December, because we have a very, very special and important guest that will be speaking here to the committee in December. One of my former employers, Wayne Hunt, someone you know very well, who serves on the Ag Development Board, and is I believe one of the original appointees to that board, has asked me and has wanted to come in and actually speak to us and share with all of our committee members what exactly has gone on since its inception and how important these funds are. So I'm looking forward to Mr. Hunt being here and having him take that time to testify before this committee and just to share that tremendous information and what he has done, and the important things he has done here for the Commonwealth as well.
Well, I thank you to the committee for extending that invitation. I know that was very well appreciated, and you all will enjoy that, and will learn something. We've got a special time, and I'm working with Alan Watts that does the Traveling the Bluegrass. He was able to interview my Irish guests that were in, and they enjoyed that when they realized they were going to be on 91 different radio stations when that came. But right now, we're fortunate. We still have one board member, one legislator, and one employee who have been here since the very beginning, and that's Senator Webb, that's Bill, and that's Mr. Hunt. And I want an interview with Alan doing that while we've got all continuing to serve in the roles that are in.
Absolutely. And I did want to ask you, when you had your visitors there in Christian County and they were watching the harvest going on, did they see the multiple combines in the field at any of the locations they were at?
They did, and I had to explain too the whole landscape of Kentucky agriculture, and make sure they realized they were seeing just a small section of what our farms look like. But yeah, they were very blown away with the size and scope of what they saw down in West Kentucky.
It is amazing. I was tickled here just the other evening. My wife was looking out our front door where I live at there in West Kentucky, and Combine was across the highway from us and was in the field about 8:30 that night, and she asked me, how can they operate that late at night? And I told her, that's what all the lights are on that machine for. They go as long and as hard as they possibly can. So any other comments or questions? Thank you both very much. We will possibly, I know I may see you in November when you're down, because I'm planning on coming to the meeting there at the Extension office. But if not, we will see you in December.
All right. Thank you all.
Next, we'll have presenters on early childhood development, and if they'll come up and introduce themselves. And I'll let you begin your presentation after your introductions.
Good morning. My name is Andrea Day. I'm the Director for the Division of Child Care in the Cabinet for Health and Family Services.
Good morning, I'm Holly LaFavors. I'm the branch manager for Kentucky Hands and Early Childhood Mental Health.
Good morning. My name's Laura Began with DCBS, and I am here for support, technological support this morning, which it's doing something it has not done before. Just
Can you make sure your mics are on, please? And one moment. There we are.
All right. Thank you. As you all know, legislation passed during the 2000 regular session creating the Tobacco Settlement Fund, and 25% of those funds were directed to the Early Childhood Development Fund for the purpose of receipt and expenditures of monies to improve and promote early childhood development for the children of the Commonwealth. As you can see, the Cabinet uses our tobacco funds to support the Child Care Assistance Program, as well as the Quality Rating and Improvement System, or the QRIS, which we refer to as Kentucky All-Stars, which I will discuss in a future slide. The Child Care and Development Fund supports efforts to provide financial assistance to low-income families to access child care so they can work or attend a job training or education program. These funds are also invested into quality initiatives aimed at building the skills and qualifications of the ECE workforce, supporting child care programs to achieve higher standards, and providing consumer education to help parents choose a program that meets their family's needs. As you can see on the slide, we do receive a large amount of CCDF funds, and I think it's very important to note that tobacco dollars serve as the entirety of the required match for these funds. So these funds are very critical to the success of our program. Currently, we are serving over 21,000 families, which is almost 37,000 children through our subsidy program. We have approximately 2,000 providers across the state that are regulated. And these funds also support professional development and the background checks for child care workers across the state. We have also used these funds for special initiatives for infant and toddler care, which is an area and an age group that there's not a lot of capacity there. So we do try to be inventive and try to support the expansion of that care, as well as disaster preparedness training and response and consumer education. So Kentucky All-Stars, it's the 5-star quality rating and improvement system for early childhood education programs. Child care programs accepting public assistance must participate in our All-Stars program and demonstrate a commitment to quality by focusing on family and community engagement, classroom and instructional quality, staff qualifications and professional development, as well as administrative and leadership practices. Programs receive technical assistance from Child Care Aware of Kentucky or the Family Child Care Network as they work towards higher levels of quality. Monetary incentives are built into All-Stars, and they get initial and annual awards as well as subsidy enrollment awards. This is what our current landscape of providers looks like in Kentucky. 35% of providers are considered high quality, meaning they are levels 3 through 5. That is a reduction, but a lot of our providers during the pandemic, all efforts were to sustain their business. 35% have maintained high quality, and we're getting back into our regular cadence of those rating visits and TA opportunities. Studies show children in high-quality early learning programs have better parent-child relationships, improved thinking skills, better attention skills, enhanced academic performance, better relationship with peers, and a great chance of finishing high school and attending college. But what does a high-quality classroom look like? Those are healthy and safe facilities with low adult-to-child ratios, with trained and experienced teachers, with family engagement, planned curriculum and developmental assessments, as well as language-rich environments. As you can see here, the professional development activities that were carried out with the funds this year really helped a lot of our childcare workers to attain credentials and continuing education. And they are incentivized for this, getting scholarships to get the the Child Development Associate credential, which is the most widely known and valued credential in early childhood education. We also pay for the assessment that goes along with that, and then upon completion, there are milestone achievement awards and reimbursement grants. How does Kentucky stand out? We have what's called ECE TRIS, which is the Early Care and Education Training Records Information System, which is a mouthful, but it is really a comprehensive professional development registry that not only helps individuals track their continuing education, but it also helps directors know where their staff are, what training opportunities are available to them, what TA is available, and it also helps our Division of Regulated Child Care to confirm that the required 15 hours every year is met by those in early childhood education settings. ECE TRIS has been in operation for years and has so much data. They can tell us who's taking trainings, where they're taking them, how they're taking them, and that's been very important throughout the pandemic of the influx of online, but we're able to track the quality and what core competencies are being trained. We also have the Kentucky Integrated Child Care System, which is used by providers for not only their CCAP billing, but anything to do with CCAP is there, as well as plans of correction for our Division of Regulated Child Care, and for all submission for documentation and correspondence related to the All-Stars program as well. So again, the tobacco dollars that we do receive, we try to invest those into child care to make sure that we are providing the resources and opportunities that our early childhood educators need to increase quality throughout the state.
Thank you. Before we move to our next presenter, we do have a couple of questions. Begin with my co-chair, Senator Mays Bledsoe, please.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you so much for your presentation. One of the most, when I was assigned tobacco, one of the first things I did was go through, well, who receives the funding and why and where are the line items. And this was one of the big surprises for me, to be honest. And since I was going to call Senator Webb, but she's not here, so I'll have to call her later. And maybe this is a good question for Bill, but what was the reasoning for this to begin with when they put the plan together? Do you have any idea? If you don't, just say you don't know.
I don't.
Okay.
And, Senator Webb was here last year as well to be like, well, this was kind of what we were thinking. That does predate me. Mm-hmm. I do know that 25, like I said, I brought the language from our statute to be ready for, what we're supposed to be using it for. But I don't know the intent at that time.
Okay. And I guess that was just interesting because you could use those match dollars from other cabinet resources. I mean, correct. It's not like these were designated. I mean, they're Medicaid match dollars, but they're not. They could be matched with any general fund dollar. Correct. Okay. I was just making that first. And then two, when you look at the 65% of those stars are not high quality. So what is the plan to move them from not so great to better quality?
Again, it's training and technical assistance. And when I can say, when I came to child care 6 years ago, we had just finished up the Race to the Top early learning grant, and the goal then was to get all providers to 45%, because throughout the different domains, there are different thresholds that have to be met as far as teacher credentialing, trainings, and all of those things. And sometimes those are cost prohibitive for some folks. So we have invested a lot of not only tobacco dollars, but our ARPA dollars in those professional development opportunities, especially scholarships. We are currently covering the credential, a certificate, associate's, bachelor's, or master's degree for folks working in an early childhood classroom. That way they can attain higher credentialing, and then ultimately leads to higher quality and their ability to score higher within those domains.
I see. And that makes sense. Early childhood, interventions crucial to long-term success. So you're not going to hear me argue that these aren't good use of program funds. I was just surprised at kind of how maybe some of it was structured and making sure we're not duplicating services in different places. I feel like we've had this conversation in a couple of different committee meetings, and where the different pieces are coming from to make it work. So I'm going to keep dialing down in that, but I appreciate that so far. Thank you.
Next, Representative King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My question goes back to slide number 3 regarding your match along the lines of Co-Chair Mays Bledsoe. You make a point of mentioning there that these dollars do serve as your match. Is it barely covering the match? There's surplus? How closely is this being met by tobacco dollars?
I will get that number
Okay.
back to you because, I don't have the numbers in front of me.
Okay, great. That'll be fine. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. Just really quickly, one of the things that I've heard is that we have a credentialing issue. So how long does the credentialing take for a center?
So credentialing,
for the actual entity? Like if somebody wants to start a child care center.
okay, so actually becoming regulated.
Yes.
So there's a lot of parts to that, but I believe that the Division of Regulated Child Care within the Office of Inspector General, it could be within 30 to 60 days once all components are met. I know that there have been some hiccups with getting surveys done, I'm missing my word here, fire marshal inspection to make sure that the facility is safe. But as far as that administrative paperwork, once everything is completed, it's about 30 to 60 days. They do have to get background checks, which we make sure that they have access to the care system before they're actually regulated, so that we're not creating additional barriers of get all this done so you can open, but then you have to wait to get your staff ready. They can start that process of getting their potential employees background checked and that training in place.
Can you check on that time frame for me,
Yes.
just to be sure?
Absolutely.
Because if we need more child care opportunities across the state, and I think that the administrative process and the credentialing process, I'm hoping will be reviewed as we go through this next budget cycle. And the other thing I also want to know is, how long does the process take for one of the participants to be deemed eligible so that they can start their care in one of these centers?
As far as someone receiving CCAP,
Yep.
I would have to get that information, and we can get that back to you as well.
That'd be great, because I know that there have been some issues with people who are eligible, and they are running into some barriers to being able to be eligible to start that care. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Day, for your presentation. I want to thank Senator Rocky Adams because she has led into a question I want to ask. How is the cabinet, one of the most important things with these tobacco dollars that goes to help our families is for those that are starting work, a young family, to be able to have access to child care and the assistance that these dollars help them with. How is the cabinet set with personnel as far as individuals working with these families? How are you set with personnel?
I would have to defer that question as far as, because where we sit within the Department for Community-Based Services and we oversee the CCAP, but the eligibility process of working those cases and doing all of that for families is with their Division for Family Support. So I would have to get.
And there will be a presentation on that for the Health and Human Services Task Force on Monday as well, where they'll talk a little bit more into that.
We really need that information, because one of the saddest things about this is for a young parent who's trying to get into the workforce with the expense of childcare and how much that takes out of their income, whether it be a single parent or it's a young married couple. Mm-hmm. But for them to be able to have access to the assistance and either not be able to get a hold of someone there when they're applying, or that individual not reaching back to them and with them working as well during the day, how do they step away from their job and then try to be able to work through that? We've got to do some things. The cabinet needs to be doing some things to help those young families. We're desperately needing the workforce. We're needing the people in the workforce. These young families, with the cost of child care, and I've got a grandchild at home that I know exactly how expensive it is. Yes. And for these young families that are already struggling, as we see inflation come into effect, increase in what it costs to rent, interest rates going up, all of this, at least on the government level, someone there that is working with the cabinet, that is trying to help, that is helping these young people be able to get access to the assistance, needs to make sure when they're speaking with them, get a return number, work a time schedule with them, because they can't walk away from their job to be able to speak to someone about this assistance. They will lose their jobs. So it's very important that we work on this. And this is not the only cabinet that I hear this. I'm hearing it across every different place where people are trying to access help here within the state. That when they contact someone, they either don't get a call back, or it's taking 2 or 3 weeks for someone to respond back to them. And as I said, with a young couple like this, a young family, we want to make sure they have access. That's why these dollars are put into this assistance. And I have strongly supported this since I've been here, and know individuals who own daycares and know how important this assistance, having these dollars come in to help these young people be able to come in and be able to access child care. So we do want to make sure that we see that as someone makes an application, if they're needing to call in at a specific time, please let them know what time they need to call back, or have communicate with them. I can share a personal experience I know with someone there where I live, who was calling starting at 7 o'clock in the morning and calling until they got ready to go to work, and it took almost 2 weeks to finally speak to a live person. So this is very, very important, because they couldn't take off any of the rest of the day. They were on the job trying to be able to afford that child care that they were paying for.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yes, Senator Deneen. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some similar concerns as Co-Chair Bledsoe expressed. On page 10 of your slide presentation, on the early childhood oral health page, when the average person looks at tobacco settlement funds, their mind goes to farmers. How are we helping farmers, and how is this money being used? And when I see that a portion of the tobacco settlement funds is going to provide fluoridation equipment to municipal water plants. That kind of raises questions for me. It just raises a red flag. Like, why is this money going there? And I am concerned about the duplication of funds and services. That does not diminish the importance of early childhood care. I was just kind of surprised that, and as we go along and learning that some of these funds are being funneled in that direction where I think they can be funneled more appropriately. And I guess it's not that they weren't funneled appropriately the first time. I'm just wondering if how we determined where those funds were to be spent 20 years ago, is that the same need and formula as we go forward here? Is that meeting the needs of today? And that is not to disparage you all and what you do and why you're here to share the information with us, but it does bring up budgetary questions that I have concerns about. So I do appreciate your presentation and the importance of what we're trying to accomplish. I'm just wondering of the duplication here and where we're going as we go forward. So, and I'm sure some of those concerns were shared with me by other members that are no longer here. They had to leave. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to get that on the record.
Thank you, Senator. And of course, that would require a change in statute. And
Yes, sir.
I wish that Senator Webb was here. And that's going to be one of the advantages whenever we have Mr. Hunt come in December. You're going to have someone who is heavily involved in the agricultural world, who will be able to share how these dollars, half were dedicated toward agriculture, the other half were dedicated because we have no further look across the border at Tennessee, and their tobacco settlement money was gone within the first 5 or 6 years that they received it. When they started TennCare, all their dollars went to TennCare. So these dollars have been, they're sorted wisely, but like I said, I think it'll be important when Mr. Hunt comes in, someone who has been involved with it, and with Senator Webb, who helped craft the legislation, to have a little bit better explanation on how this was all established and set.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Now our next presenter, are there any other questions? We'll let our next presenter go, please.
So I'm here to talk about the Health Access Nurturing Development Services, also known as HANDS. HANDS is Kentucky's home visitation program. It is a voluntary program for families prenatal through the age of 3. We're there to work with the overburdened parents. If you are a parent, you know every parent is overburdened, and we can all use some help. So we're there to help those families. The goal is to provide, one of the goals is to provide improve health outcomes for both the mother and the child prenatally, and then to improve social outcomes for the child and family as the child grows older. The overarching goal of the HANDS programs are healthy pregnancies and birth, optimal child growth and development, that the children live in healthy and safe homes, and that the families are self-sufficient. HANDS has several funding sources. Sorry, that was a tongue twister there. First off, of course, are the Master Tobacco Settlement dollars, Medicaid, general funds, and the Maternal and Infant Early Childhood Home Visiting Grant, which are our federal dollars for the federal grant that we receive. The tobacco funds are also used in HANDS as the Medicaid matching funds. And for FY23, HANDS served 3,696 families through the support of the tobacco funds. We also want to talk about the early childhood mental health services. It is in partnership with the Public Health and Behavioral Health and with developmental intellectual disabilities. It's there to meet the needs of our young children and families by providing mental health services to the families. So the early childhood mental health providers consult on social emotional issues. They train on social emotional issues within child care facilities and early childhood areas. We evaluate and assess children ages birth through 5, and then we provide therapeutic services to children ages birth through 5 and their families. In FY23, 3,997 hours were billed to serving these children and families. The consultants were able to provide 2,755 hours to child serving agencies, training hours. And then they were able to train 1,336 early care and education staff, which includes Head Start, child care, and public preschool. So the goal was to increase the capacity to implement services based on the evidence-based models and practices that Kentucky uses, which are the parent-child interaction therapy, trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy, and conscious discipline. Another project we have is the Child Care Health Consultants, and those began in Kentucky around the year 2000. They provide consultation and education and technical assistance on health, safety, and nutrition to child providing agencies for children ages birth through 5. So they're trained healthcare consultants from local health departments that participate in activities with Child Care Aware and Kentucky All-Stars to ensure collaboration and coordination on issues impacting the quality of child care throughout the state. The CCHCs provided 1,016 training hours to child care providers in FY23. They provided 2,189 hours of consultation to child care providers, and then they received 42 total calls to their TA center. And then I will change places with Dr. McKee.
These are my slides. I'm Dr. Julie Watts-McKee. I'm the State Dental Director for the Oral Health Program, which is in the Department for Public Health. And we too accept early childhood funds, and I thought I'd review how we're using them through the Oral Health Program. We allocate money to 38 health departments for them to help us apply fluoride varnish as a nursing service as part of what they do with their children they see in their clinics. In FY22, about 13,000 services were done. This has significantly increased since the pandemic. We're still rebuilding with that, so I expect that to go up every year. In past years, our health departments have done between 25 and 30,000 of them, so we're still building. The health departments are looking forward to getting back into providing fluoride varnishes for their clinics, and we've had 15 day-long training sessions for public health nurses just in this year so far, and I expect to do 2 more before the year ends. They order kits. That's how we measure how this is going on. Kits orders have been up since the pandemic. Health departments are still within their rebuilding years of getting back into services, and it's going to be interesting to see how that levels out. There's some other things we're doing that are new to using the early childhood funds, and we are funding the University of Pikeville School of Dental Medicine to outfit 2 operatories specifically for pediatric patients. They're a new dental school out of Pikeville that is built to serve underserved areas. If you ever have a chance to know more about that, I highly recommend you learn about it. We are supporting a survey that is hygienist focused and hygienist run to find out what the dental status is of what we call our early learners, those children under 6. The last time we did this was 1999, so we're actually seeing the children of the people we surveyed with the last one. So it's about time, and we're looking forward to presenting those results as we get them. We have expanded the footprint of the number of teams of our public health hygienists. We've added 3 this year through this funding with a total of 11. We don't fund them all the time every year. We give them startup funding, and then they become financially sustainable on their own after a few years. Talking to Senator Deneen, this is the question he had about fluoridation equipment to smaller municipal plants. The state of Kentucky has a statewide mandate to fluoridate municipal water. We are one of a growing number of states that do that, and we have different sizes of systems that we work with to fluoridate. And these particular systems that we're assisting with fluoridation equipment are on the smaller side. They're more financially vulnerable to do this, so we're helping them update their equipment so they can continue to fluoridate. So why early childhood funds for this? It's water. I think it's an excellent question. Optimally fluoridated water benefits all of us, everybody in here that has a natural tooth surface. But it really, really highly impacts those kids from 0 through 6. Through optimally fluoridated water, ingesting it, it reduces decay, but between 25 and 40%. We have such a decay problem, especially in our little kids, that we need all the help we can get. So we're working with these smaller systems to be able to solidify their presence in fluoridation. We have a loan repayment program that I'm really excited about that we're working through the University of Louisville and the University of Kentucky that puts graduates into Kentucky's dentally needy areas to provide care. There's some caveats that come into that you have to do. We just don't give you the check and you have a good time. We actually require that you take Medicaid. We require that you see children under 6 because that's the money that this comes from. We want them to be in a needy place. They can get up to $50,000 a year for 4 consecutive years for each year of service. So by the end of 4 years, they can reduce $200,000 of an average of $267,000 educational debt that they can do, and it relieves them so they can stay in there. So a question is, well, why 4 years? Studies show that no matter what the professional licensure level is, a physician, a dentist, a nurse, shows that if you are in a community between 4 and 5 years, you're there for 25 years. And that's what we want. We want to build those communities. So we're doing that, excited to do so. We are helping solidify a clinic through the University of Kentucky's College of Dentistry in Western Kentucky. There are so few Medicaid providers that the one in Benton is the one that sees a lot of the patients, and we're helping them do that. We are helping the dental schools improve their access to kids under 6. We have 2 projects, one with U of L, one with UK. The one with U of L actually purchased special equipment to see the small child. As a practicing dentist, when you order a treatment chair for the patients to sit in, they're 7 feet long. Well, a 3-year-old is not 7 feet long. And so it makes the child more comfortable. It makes the operator, the physician, the dentist or the hygienist more comfortable in order to provide care. So that's what their project is. The University of Kentucky, their pediatric residency clinic is open. The chairs are open. And so what they've done is they've taken part of that and using our money, and they have made quiet rooms for the screamers, but also the kids that need a little bit more attention, quieter environment in order to get the care done. So we're doing those. That's a one-time thing. Pike County used to have a dental suite with a dentist, and they have not for maybe 12 years. They want to reinvigorate that. We are supporting that. And that is just not a Pike County thing. That is actually going to be a partnership with U-Pike School of Dental Medicine and the Big Sandy Technical College through their dental assisting and their dental hygiene program in order to see people there. They will be seeing Medicaid people, which we need that in our area. We are also sponsoring through the Kentucky Youth Advocates their website that is patient-parent focused so that they can get good information, usable information in order to better get their children into dental care. Kentucky Youth Advocates has a great reputation of doing this on all levels, just not oral health, into mental health, into housing, into whatever, to help their youth. And so we're helping them with that. And I think I've overtalked 2 slides.
Thank you so much. We do have a couple of questions. Representative King, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a twofold question, if I may. In comparing the slides on the HANDS program and the Child Care and Development Fund program, I noticed, as you mentioned, the HANDS program, a little under 4,000 families, and then what my mind thinks of as out of the home child care as they get, as they get a little older, is 21,000. Is it a funding constraint that keeps HANDS from serving more folks? And the second part of that question is, may we have a map on, of course, nothing too specific, but per county, like where the HANDS program is being implemented and the subsidies for the Child Care and Development Fund? I'll be looking for, is there an urban or rural or both need, and if there's consistency in need between the two programs?
So we'll tell you that HANDS is provided in all 120 counties.
Okay.
Microphone, please.
I'm sorry, didn't realize it wasn't on. It is provided in all 120 counties. During the pandemic, we had to do an about face real quick. We are a home visitation program. What we did was go into the homes and work with these families. So all of a sudden we had to put a stop to that, and we had to start doing visits virtually. And so we lost a significant number of families during the pandemic. And now, so we are rebuilding, and we knew we were going to have to rebuild after the pandemic. What has happened now is we have parents who came into HANDS and they only had virtual services, and now they're not comfortable with us coming into their home. So we're having to build that rapport and get back to what HANDS really is. So our numbers are increasing. They're steadily increasing. We're having to add trainings all the time for our providers because we're having to add providers because of more families. But I can get you those numbers as to how many families are in each county if that's what you would like.
Chair Mays Bledsoe.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm on a similar way. Dr. McKee, you'll love this. My children both had their dental checkup today.
Very good.
So I totally appreciate the pediatric dentist. And now that they're in high school, they are much better than they were in elementary school about the whole thing. So I appreciate the small spaces and being mindful of providing good experiences for kids who don't often like to have that done on a good day. Not to mention those that actually have tooth issues and pain and everything else, which causes a whole different host of trauma and issues. So with that, I was just curious, of the 38 health departments that are supporting you, how, in a similar vein, is that urban, rural, how are those 38 evaluated or just chosen?
Oh, it's if they want it.
If they want
it. If they want it. If they, not all health departments provide the service of fluoride varnish to their children. The ones that do are the 38, and we base their funding. It's not an even number across all health departments. Their funding is based on history that they've done, and it is to support the program for those children who aren't Medicaid covered, so we can still get the varnish out to them, and to cover other costs of that for all children.
So so it's not really a rural urban thing at all, or a big city or small area. It really is just whoever has the capacity to do it.
Whoever has the desire to do it. It's a long story, but the capacity is easily built into it and doesn't take all that much time. Now, since you ask, Fayette County does not participate and Jefferson County does not participate.
Interesting.
I
would love to know, as I'm sure maybe others would, who does of those 38. Is that list somewhere that I could see quickly?
I don't have it published, but I can give it to you. That's
I think
no
it'd be
problem.
helpful for us, just from a curiosity standpoint. Am I the only one? No, shaking hands. That would be great. Just for us to see kind of where they are and why. And I was mostly going down the line of, are we hitting the areas that may have had some lower income or don't have access? Are those mostly Eastern Western? Are those also places that have more of a rural tobacco influence or not?
We see, just off the top of my head, I think we have more participation in our rural underserved areas relative to varnish than we do in our not so rural, not so underserved areas. Just thinking, the Kentucky River District Health Department, lots of varnishes. Franklin County, not underserved, but it is a focus of their board that it's basically see a kid, varnish a kid. And they would take care of it to the point that they were ordering so many kits that UK said, I think they're selling them black market. And they weren't. They weren't at all. They have that that directive from their board. But yeah, we do. But I'd be glad to get you that list of the 38.
Yeah, that would just be interesting. And I really appreciate what you do. I mean, all of these programs I think are fantastic. So I preface that to say, you know, my thinking behind a lot of this is we have a finite resource in tobacco funds. It is not a reoccurring stream that's going to be consistent. It at one point will probably continue to decline, and we're funding some very substantial programs that could be general fund dollars for long-term stability with a finite resource. That's kind of my philosophical thinking about why I'm asking a lot of those kind of questions, not a programming or is it good for our community and good for constituents in Kentucky. So just wanted to say that and appreciate what you do.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And I think that tobacco, I was around when this first started too, so that tells you how old I am. But this is money that gives us the opportunity to prove that is worthy of general funds when and if that ever occurs. Tobacco settlement funds is kind of like be careful what you want, because we do get an enormous money and we do a very good job of being stewards of that money. But the whole thing is that'd be nice if people quit using tobacco altogether. And that would mean zero. And then we have to look at other fundings. You can't see them because I dime, but I have gray roots. But my age tells me that we're going to be having this funding for a while. It's going to decrease every year. We know that, and we make adjustments for that. Thanks for asking.
Thank you, Senator. And I want to share my agreement with my co-chair. These dollars are important, and what the services you provide are important. We just want to make sure that our citizens have access to them. As you mentioned, we don't know how long the dollars will be here. That's why we're so cautious of how we spend them. Is Representative Reed, has he left? Representative Reed, who serves on A&R and works closely with Chairman Petrie, will attest to that, because when you ask questions about these dollars, you want to be careful, because we don't want to start something that we could see these funds go away and not be able to afford to continue on. But once again, I want to thank you all. Do we have any more questions? Thank you for your presentation. You've done a great job. With that, for our committee members, I'll remind you, we will not be meeting in December the 14th. If my mom and dad were still here, that would be their wedding anniversary, and would be I have to go back. It's pushing 70 some odd years if they were both still here. But we will meet at 10:30 on December the 14th. Like I said, we do have a very special guest that will be here presenting. And if any of our members are able to make it to the meetings there in Hopkinsville in November, please come. It will be very interesting to actually see our how our boards work and manage these dollars, and actually see the individuals that serve upon those boards and have a conversation with them. If there are no other business, may I have a motion